know that maybe half of our audience are not familiar with Python, so we had to spend time understanding how to work with Python and everything. And then we also recall that we had some lecture from my colleague, Professor Othman, yesterday. And so before we go on, I will just do what is a tradition, because I believe that this is also, this is an academic experience, and traditionally, I wouldn't be happy to continue if I'm not sure that I had an impact yesterday. Maybe you want us to do Python again. What is Python, right? So, but we will have a quick quiz, to refreshing our memory. Do you have it? Huh? Not like it. Okay. All right. So let me just ask one or two things, right? So what is the primary library? That was towards the end yesterday. That's how we know people that stay towards the end. What is the primary library that we can use for automating the processes in prompt engineering? And we remember what prompt engineering is anyway, right? So what is the primary library that we can use to automate the processes of prompt engineering if we don't want to pay for ChatGPT and we need an API? If we have an API and we don't want to subscribe for OpenAI API, because that's what we'll be learning today. Sir? Oh, somebody got it before you. Onyekachi Chris from anyway, that is from the chat, and I'm the only one seeing it, unless if you are on the yes. So congratulations Onyekachi Chris. Maybe we will put it on your certificate. But so what did you say, sir? Yes, I mentioned Hugging Face as the provider. So we want to go with Hugging Face instead of OpenAI. Now, what is the library in Python? What is the library in Python that we can use if you want to format? If you want to like work with CSV files and you want to make them in a presentable format while you are doing your work. Yes. Pandas. Great. Pandas. Maybe some candy for you since you are here. So because of time, I will just go ahead. If we have more time, we'll do more quiz in the afternoon. I want to maybe undo a little bit of this morning announcement. We still have a session after Jumat. So, and it's after, I mentioned that after Jumat, we would have the certificate, but this session will be divided into two. So we will start, and then when it's time for Jumat/lunch, we will have to go for Jumat/lunch, no matter how far we have gone in the training. And then after Jumat, we will continue with the second half of the training and we will wrap up. But I promise you, we will wrap up as soon as possible. So please, after Jumat, don't stop by at the market or anywhere. Just come straight so that we can wrap it up at least by 4 p.m. I hope that sounds like a plan. Okay, great. Thank you very much. So yesterday we also know that we had this shared folder. If you don't have the shared folder, please signify now so that the people on the so that the the admins or facilitators can share it with you. the shared folder, or you can post it on the chat again. And this is the document. I mean, this is the, yes. So this is the notebook that we were working with. I believe we still don't have the notebook for the other professor here, but he provided the public link. Just to be sure. Do you have the public link to the other notebook? If not, I will get it and drag it into this folder as well. But I'm going to also have one more notebook. So this one. Okay, for where this is talking. Where is this talk? Okay. Let me just download it and put it there. Since it didn't sync into my computer. Okay. Okay, let me use this one. Sorry about that. Yes. So we have one more document that we'll be dealing with. Okay, I will just share it after the program. It's not being synced into my computer. Okay, so yesterday, we still have this, and I said we have the remaining materials down here that can help you to understand, and we're not going with OpenAI because it's not free, and I want something that everybody will have equal advantage of doing. Now, in terms of so in terms of now, we are going to be looking at organ phase to do the rest of our implementation. And I will quickly run through all of this. So I mentioned yesterday that if you, our ultimate goal of being here is to be able to automate the process the process of the things that we do in prompt engineering. And we learned a little bit of Python yesterday so that we can understand at least there is something about function and how we can make function calls, how we can pass parameters into the functions and so on. So based on the little knowledge that we had yesterday, now we also learned some of these functions, usage of some of these functions. And when we begin to talk about library, what is this library? What is it actually all about? The library is just like your school library, whereby you just go there are catalogs. And if you don't know where you are going, you might be lost in the library, at least in a library like Unilag Library, right? So you need to understand that, oh, if you need a book in history, first of all, you have to go to where they have it stored and everything. And then even within the history unit, you have to begin to look, maybe alphabetically, they have been arranged it in different compartments. So the library is just like folders of all the documents, all the files and everything that you need for that specific task, that is for the subject area. And there, what are the documents that we are talking about in our programming world? We are talking about classes, that is programs, files that are helping you to achieve what naturally you would have sweat to achieve. So they have produced this. You can also create yours and share it with people. So you can also create yours and share it with people. So that's exactly what we have. We have a lot of them on the internet, and we need to be able to get the right class, the right program. And when you get the right program, the right class, you need to be able to know what is the name of the actual program that will be helping you to solve your specific problem. That is, what is the name of the method? And when you try to look at what is the name of that method, you have to use it exactly the way the name is. That is what we call syntax. If you don't spell it correctly, even capitalize it, I mean, uppercase, lowercase, the way it is correct, the way it is written, you are going to miss the actual call you want to make. And then each of these methods, when you now want to use them to solve your specific problem, you need to first of all analyze and understand what parameters does each take, right? Some of them don't take any parameters. As I showed yesterday, parameters are those things that you have in the bracket. Some of them will say, give me two strings. That is, give me maybe the name of your name, maybe what the program is designed to do. In this case, in the context of prompt engineering, now we are saying, okay, the two things that I want you to give me is, give me your name, right? And the question you want to ask ChatGPT, right? So that method, that is that program, has been customized, has been written. That's why I said, no matter what, you cannot leave the place, you cannot leave out the place of programmer. Even though the future now is about prompt engineering, at the end of the day, the engine that will be driving it is still program, it's still code. So you are going to say, okay, give me your name and the prompt you want to request. Even if the prompt means help me to write another program, right? So that means that kind of method is taking two parameters, which is the name of the person asking the question and a string, that is the question the person wants to ask. And then the program just goes ahead and does its thing. You don't need to know. It is encapsulated. So you don't need to know, and it does its thing. And then the beauty of it is that you can even, because when you look at all those import this, import that, you are saying you can even import them. You can even inherit all this code and make them as a pretend, and make yourself a pretend writer of that code. That is, it is part of your code. So that you don't need to write those again. You can just say, hey, I know this code exists. Hey, I know this function exists. Just like the function that we wrote yesterday. Function maybe one that gives, print out your name or something. Oh, I know this function exists. All this function is for me is the name of a person, right? And then the function has something to return, after processing the name of a person. It returns the image of that person, right? And so I'm like, okay, since there is already a function like that, give me Ajoke, you pass Ajoke into that method. By the time the function finishes doing what it is doing, it drops a picture of Ajoke, and that is the end result. So that is exactly what we do. And feel free if you want to ask questions, if you are stuck in between, if you're on chat, send a chat. People are on the lookout there. And again, as a reminder, there is a break. There are two. Oh, did I do breakout room today? No. There will be 2 breakout rooms. I will do it right now so that we also want everybody to benefit as much as possible equally. So there will be 2 breakout rooms. And for each of the 2 breakout rooms, you can go inside it and call the attention of one of the facilitators. There is facilitators in front of their name on Zoom. So call their attention, private chat them and say, meet me in room 1 or meet me in room 2. There are 2 rooms. So, or maybe 3 rooms. You can choose which room you want to be. So the rooms are open the rooms are open now on Zoom. If you have any challenge with anything and you need help, just call the attention of one of the facilitators. For those of you in person here, signal one of them wearing those leopard t-shirts. All right. So we've learned a little bit about prompt engineering yesterday now. Now we want to be able to use functions to help us with tasks that are prompt engineering related. And because of the theme of this workshop, our ultimate focus will be on conversational AI that can have conversation with people. So, and for you to be able to do that, I will just look at what matters most in some of these things, and then you can take the material, digest it. There is beauty in ChatGPT. There is beauty in LLM, and I'm not against my students using it always, but they use it to learn, to empower themselves. So that is the point. Anything you don't understand, there is too much resources to help you, right? You just need to invest the time and help. And then there is also our group that we have on WhatsApp. So there is what we call few short learning, right? So the essence of sorry, some things are coming my way here. Oh gosh. Okay, let's just go. So there is still short learning. And so the essence is we want to be able to give examples. I mentioned yesterday, we already know that machine learning, we have learned a lot about that yesterday, that LLM is actually a product of machine learning. It's actually a product of a neural network, right? It just has its own, a very advanced architecture with something that we call attention mechanism. That is, it pays attention on words. It believes that every word is important. We're not going to talk about that architecture now because it becomes another complication. So, but the point now is that it tries to generate the future by paying attention on everything that has been said around it and attaching weight to it. And we know neural network is about weight. But in this case, there is always an attention on everyone. So which means there is a very heavy iteration going in between the input and the output. And so because of that, it is still the same thing, only more advanced and more data, because the iteration is just what you can't imagine, right? So eventually, we also knew yesterday that this data is not enough. This training, this ChatGPT or name it, any model at all, it's not customized for you. It's trained with some general data sets, right? Even the Hugging Face model that we're going to be using today, We know the ChatGPT and everything, they are so beautiful, they are so amazing, they are so fantastic. When you get the result, you are like, is this magic? But I know deep within you, there is still something that is missing, right? When you look at their output, but you can't help it because you have what it gives you, right? So that is what we try to now do to say, okay, even with the powerful nature of LLS, is there a way we can now make it so that it can adapt to my own specific need? It can adapt to your own specific needs as a professor, or it can adapt to the needs of your students as your new students. So building around the same framework of that LLM, you now want to give it specific data. For example, what you as a professor will be interested in learning would not be what your students will be interested in learning. So why not leverage on what ChatGPT already know? Why not leverage on it? And then you can now say, okay, I know you already have this global wisdom. Now, I want you to tilt your experience towards my own wisdom. There is no doctor anywhere in the world, let's say in America, the best surgeons in America, I believe appropriately, I believe very much that they will treat a fellow American better in terms of treatment, in terms of maybe providing. I'm not saying it, you should not go for treatment there and everything. So sometimes I just laugh when people are sick here and the next thing they want to do is travel abroad for treatment, right? First of all, you want to check the doctor you are going to see. Does he have enough experience with an African audience, with an African patient? There are some things in your DNA that they have never come across, right? They have never had that experience. The kind of disease they have is not the same as us. Few days ago, a few days before I traveled, I was having a conversation about some research I did in the past about some game with to help people with sickle cell disease, right? Many years back, and I'm trying to look at. Then AI was not like this, so I was trying to look at now students to work on a project with AI that will be able to adapt. That will be able to create some personalized usage of that kind of game and help people with their emotions, because it's a very serious emotion issue when people are not like there are other people, they are like, oh, why am I different? And then that will help them to understand them, to have conversation with them and so on. But anyway, what I want to say is that I realize that many of my colleagues don't even know there is something called sickle cell. Why? Because it is not their thing. Because it is not, but here in Africa, actually, I did that research because Nigeria, at least as at when I was doing the research, Nigeria was the most endemic nation in the world when it comes to sickle cell carriers. And that is why from childhood, I know it. But people don't know. You cannot imagine trying to treat that disease, right? Or making a complaint. Sometimes they will tell you your sickness is in your brain. We'll go and just drink water and sleep because they don't believe that sickness exists. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is that we can build on like a very big, powerful, because we don't have the resources to do that training that can detect cancer, that can do all of this, but we can leverage on it, and then we can now build our own data set to say, yes, I know you already know this, you know how to handle it, but you don't have the right data. So this is an additional information that you should know, and that is what we do. So, and so when we want to give it this kind of information, there are two key things when you are dealing with feeding maybe your LLM and so on with prompts, right? You want to see what kind of prompt you want to give it to learn from. Is it through few shot learning, or so we have few shot and zero shot learning. So do you want to give it like as few shot learning, or you want to give it as a zero shot learning? So if you are saying few short learning, we're just saying give it some few examples, right? So you give it some few examples. For example, if you have something like this, English is this, how are you? French, at least I know a little, I learned French in secondary school. So still know that this is comment ça va, right? So French is like comment ça va. And then English says, what is your name? French says, comment vous appelez-vous, right? So now, so you begin to you give it a pattern, right? For example, I can say, okay, ChatGPT, translate how are you for me in French, and it still gives you. But sometimes you might give it example to say, when you want to translate, put the English word beside the French word, right? So you give it the examples of the pattern that you want, right? So, or you can give it zero short example so that you don't provide any example, right? All we are saying is that just give it, just give it prompt. So you can just give it directly. So in many cases, this is what people do. This is what mostly people do. They just say, I just want to get to my business. If GPT-3 can be nice, GPT-2 can be nice if you know how to craft your prompt very well with examples, right? If you tell a child, come here, and the child is coming. If the child that is coming, if you say, no, take that road, you know, you are guiding it. It's still coming here, but you're now saying, no, don't come that way. Take the other road. You see, you have to like, you to see it as baby that needs to be guided, right? On the exact thing that you do. And before you know it, even the lower models, you'll be amazing at how they perform. So, and then you can change your prompts. You can break it into smaller tasks. So, for example, you can say, okay, generate a list of 3 potential topics for a blog in AI ethics, right? And so the output say bias in AI, data privacy, AI in decision making. That is the output, right? And then you can now build on the previous. We should know that ChatGPT also has memory, right? So it can span through certain, if you had been using it before, you will realize that once you continue and you begin to tell it doesn't remember where you started from, and then it begins to misguide you, right? So you should know that it also, if you really want to make sure that it's guiding you from the beginning, make sure that the present is connected to the previous. Does that make sense? So your current prompt should be connected to its previous answer, so that you can use that and then change that with that, and then you will have a better output. So now, but that is, we don't have enough time to play on the playground. Every model has its own playground where you can, and that's what we always interact with, right? To just ask our question and get the result. But we want to be able to generate our prompts dynamically based on the Python that we did yesterday. So now, that is, you want to use script. And by that, if you have large data sets, you can give it, because you're already using script. You're not the one typing it, right? All you just need to do is to give it the data set and say, learn from this and do whatever you want me to do. And by that, you're able to get personalized response. So something like chatbots and virtual assistants and so on. And just here, this is an example of how you want to generate dynamic prompts. Yesterday, I mentioned that when you use this square bracket, what does it mean? Excellent. Who answered list? You again, you have not finished the planning. Okay. Yeah. So now, what is the other one that I showed? The one with curly brace. Ah, everybody. Okay. Everybody dictionary. If it is everybody, then my apologies. So, I think I will put the chat here so that people can also be part of the conversation on the chat. That was from Tolulope Erin. Apologies if I mispronounce your name, Erin Osho, to us. So I agree with you. Fibroid, for instance, is more prominent among the Blacks. Studies have shown. So this is all we are saying. We need our own brand. We need our own data set. So now, so if there is like, so we are saying personalizing the response so that in chatbot, so like creating the prompt and everything, we need code for us to be able to deal with large sets. So now this is a list. We are going to be using it a lot. So if yours has to do with pair, you can explore dictionary. There are other things that you should know, but we don't have the time. You can study Python in full. What we did was a crash Python course yesterday, which is like just get hold of what we will be needing for this training. So now we have, so you can say, okay, write a summary. So you can say, okay, this is what we call templates. Template is a list of items. The first item on that list is write a summary of the following text and then curly brace, curly brace. This is not dictionary. I hope you all agree. Now, what are we expecting to go into that curly brace, curly brace? Variable, great, excellent. So, variable. So, we should expect variable to go into that. So, which means we are trying to say, okay, so which means it's even amazing that you can use this within a list, right? So you are creating a placeholder that can eventually go there, right? So we are saying, explain the significance of my school, explain the significance of this event, explain the significance of artificial intelligence, explain the significance of anything, right? So which means, so you can begin to now think towards that, generate 3 questions about physics, generate 3 questions about English, right? So you can begin to now build your prompt. I mean, build what will have come into that prompt, build it into your list that you will use within the Python framework. So now we cannot go ahead and say, this is a list of things that we want. Sorry. So this is a list of things that we want. Call it your data points. And then, and remember also that we can load this from a file. We can have like 1 million data points, right? You can have like 1,000 templates, right? So which means we can say, okay, artificial intelligence. So which means somehow we can have a prompt that says, write a summary about the following text, artificial intelligence. Write a summary about the following text, climate change. Write a summary about the following text, quantum computing. Does that make sense? And then we cannot say, explain the significance of artificial intelligence. And then you begin to build your list. Generate 3 questions about quantum computing, right? So you can imagine how many questions you already have in that process. Yes. So I see my Oga mathematician there is already doing the permutation. Yes. So the combination of, I can see his hand doing the calculation, right? So that's the point. So we cannot take ourselves to looping. What is loop? Iteration. We can take ourselves to repeating the same process over and over again, right? So we can say, okay, and remember what I told you about data point. This time around, I decided to even build it in a more clearer, people that are really common with the traditional way of writing code for this to that, for this to that. But that one line, you will see it in many books, because it's shorter, it's more compact, it's more object-oriented, right? So we have for every data, every X, Y, or Z in your data point, for every element in your data point, right? For every element in your data point, artificial intelligence, so climate change, anything that is on your data point, you want to again iterate through your template. Does that make sense? What we call loop in a loop, right? You embed that loop in another loop. So first of all, the inner loop will happen, right? So which means we will first of all loop through every X, Y, or Z in templates, which means it will start by write a summary of the following, I don't know, whatever you put there, right? And then it says the value of prompt is whatever is that template dot then format, right? And then you go, since we are going to be inserting value, we need to use format, right? Because that is what Python wants from us, right? So, and then you go and you are like data. And what is data? Data is every element here. Does that make sense? So it will start by first of all write a summary of the following text, and then it will take artificial intelligence was because the inner loop is happening, right? So it will take starting with data points, right? Then it will iterate through, so it will take the first one here, iterate through the template one by one, write a summary about artificial intelligence, explain the significance of artificial intelligence, and generate 3 questions about artificial intelligence. Does that make sense? I think great. Oh, it's going through the data point first. Oh, God. Excellent. You are following more than I'm doing. So now, we're saying, so you go ahead, so you take for every data in data point, right? So you take each of the data points, right? For every for every starting with artificial intelligence, and I've turned it around. So you take the template. So it takes every template, write a summary of, right? So it takes each of the templates. So it goes and take that template, and then it use format to pass the data, right? So write the summary of the following text, artificial intelligence. Write the summary of the following text, climate change. Write the summary of the following text, quantum computing. And then every element here, by the time it's done with quantum computing, it has cycled through every element in the list, right? And then it has to go to the next element in templates, right? And then when it gets to the next element in template, which is about explain, then it picks every element here, then it comes back here again and take artificial intelligence, climate change, and quantum computing, and insert it here, right? And what is done with quantum computing, it goes again to the next iteration, and the next thing is to pick, generate, right? And then it takes the three elements. And you cannot imagine if we have a list loaded from a file, a CSV. You learned some things about pandas and so on yesterday, right? So you cannot imagine if you have that long list of all your students. You want to generate personalized questions for every student, and you put each person in its own role, right? They can never cheat, will they? Because you can never be tired of questions. You can never exhaust the questions. You can imagine if you are a journalist trying to write a report about something that happened somewhere, and another person already wrote the report, and you don't want to copyright, right? And you have read the news from somewhere. All you just need to do is to generate different varieties of every paragraph, of every sentence in that news. Yes.
I like Java, so in prompts that we need. Okay.
Yes.
Now, I'm looking for like for me to know find another that takes this output here and give it such that when this enters that it gives you. Now, so for example, another platform.
Thank you very much, Professor Julius Abi. Okay. You are running ahead of the trailers. Because we are getting there. Right, right. And it's a very good question. That shows how much you are concentrating and looking forward to that, right? So yes, that is very possible. And I want to say in the world of programming, anything is possible. You just want to think through it and the logic, convert it to the syntax. Why not? It's possible. Yes, all you need, and that's what I was saying about the API. OpenAI has its own API framework, right? You just send it to the backend. So, but you need the key. You cannot just access their server and have their things free of charge like that. And that's why we're saying, instead of us using OpenAI, which everybody is familiar with because it's ChatGPT, we're going to be using Hugging Face. Because with Hugging Face, you don't need an API key and you don't need to buy anything, at least from the simple models. Okay, so which means, oh yeah, so that's the kind of results that you are going to have, right? And we can see all of this. Okay, but that's the output for now. So, but I will want us to say, okay, there is a role playing whereby you say, whereby you ask the model to act, be a specific role. That's also a way of making your prompt. So in your list now, you can start with, you are a nurse, right? That would be on a variable. Next time, you are a teacher. Next time, you are a typist. So which means the AI will focus on being a nurse at that time, or you are a therapist, right? So that when people begin to use that conversational AI, the conversational AI will play that role instead of just answering generally. So, for example, if you say you are a therapist and somebody is coming to say, oh, I have problem with my mathematical models. My teacher is crazy, right? Because this mathematical equation is too complex. If that is what the person types. Now, because you have told that conversational AI to say you are a therapist, conversational AI will not start by providing the solution to that math, right? And providing the answer to that math. First of all, say, hello, are you okay? You know, because that is the work, that's what therapists do. They first of all want, I don't know how to say it in here, you know? Yes, they want your mental state to be at the level where you can take that formula. Otherwise, you will see them punching and crashing their computer before they leave that place, because somebody is saying this math is driving me crazy and the therapist is driving that person crazy again. How will they know the math? So, but if you say you are a professor, this is the role of a professor, right? By the time the ChatGPT is interacting with that student, it knows, oh, I'm supposed to be a professor, not your therapist, right? And it will be more formal in giving you the math problem and everything. So all those things help. It helps for you to build a stronger prompt, which eventually will give you a stronger AI than even whatever simple AI you are using. Was somebody asking a question? Okay, so okay, so I said, so it's with the role playing, you are able to guide the user through that. It could be something like instruction based, right? Where you just say, okay, give a step-by-step instruction first. You know, in the previous one, it was chained, right? But in this one, this is like you're saying, okay, step one, analyze the following text and identify the main idea. Step two, provide two supporting details from the text. So you just first of all chain all your instruction and give to the AI so that you can, so by the time you look at this, for example, I'm not saying this is the output that will come out, but the output will also be changed, right? So you can say, okay, it first of all give you the idea, then it gives you the details, and it gives you the summary. If you have ChatGPT there or whatever, you can try it. Try all of these methods, and you will see that you will be amazed at the kind of result you will get. So your result will no longer be generalized, but it will be targeted at how you plan it, right? So that you can have structured, predictable output, right? So you can also refine your prompt iteratively, right? So when you refine your prompt iteratively, you are going to be trying multiple versions. And this is where actually code is beautiful, right? We can even have multiple versions of prompts and look through it and send it to your AI for it to give also multiple versions, equivalent versions. And what kind of data structure do you think would be nice for that when it's coming out? Q, yes, but I didn't mention Q. Yesterday, yes, no, because you're a computer science student and I give it to you. Yeah. So, but if you have, Q is good, but I was actually looking for something like dictionary, right? Because you are not interested in ordering everything. That's not what we are talking about. Well, we are looking at you are generating a list of prompts, right? You are generating a list of many prompts, many versions of your prompt, and a mapping of different versions of its outputs, right? So you are now saying map the prompt with the output and create a dictionary of the key is the prompt, the value is the output. Does that make sense? Great. So we can have or you can have like iterative, so you can refine it iteratively, isolate it and refine it iteratively, whereby you have something like, okay, write a poem about the moon, right? And then it gives you a generic poem because you have not specifically said, well, if you are not satisfied with that, Then you can go on there and say, okay, write a romantic poem about the moon, focusing on its impact on lovers. That is now more straightforward, right? And then it gives you more engaging output. And so there are cases, yes.
We are comparing our work from format.
Yes.
That's what I'm telling you.
Yes, we are trying to make it better by configuring it to the format that is suitable for you. You know.
But doesn't suit me.
If it doesn't suit you, then you refine it again. Or you get more data. We still talk about, we're still going to look at how we can feed it your own data, your own example.
Feeding in your own data.
Yes. So I said few short learning. In that case, you don't need very large database anymore to train. You can imagine how many of you have trained a machine model here before, and on the internet you can put like your hand up on Zoom. You can also put your hand up. You will realize that I can see a lot of hands on Zoom, and I can see hands here. How much time does it take you? 1 second, 2 minutes? Computer is very fast. 1 minute.
7
Can you say that out loud?
7.
7 days. Yes. Some will take 21 days. Some will even take months. Yeah. I want you to go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT itself now, how long it took to train its model. I won't tell you, but ask ChatGPT itself how long it took to take its own model, its first model. Let's say put up with the first model. And then ask it for the most recent model. If it's the exam now, students, you will have gotten it out. If this is next school, you won't waste time. I don't know, your magic finger is no longer magic. How long? 10 months. 10 months. Yes. Of running and running and running and running. No sleep, no break, no transfer. Right? So you can imagine how large. So I don't know how much is your data set that you train for 7 days. 50 million. You can imagine how many trillions that is being trained. Right? 30. Just look at that. GPU, right? So you can imagine how long, and this GPU we are talking about is not even, you can't even compare it to the super computing that is being trained in those research labs, that is being used in those research labs. You cannot do that unless you want to continue to train the data set for the rest of your life, right? You cannot. But you know that all these big laboratories, they already have the main thing, the huge data set that you need. What you now need is the few short learning. Because I don't know the data that you are going to give it that will compare to what it has already had. But yet it's not customized to you. You're not going to give it just those short training, which will not take time to iterate through. So that's it. That's what we are trying to do. So in order to do this, there are many ways by which we can do it. Things like using it in things like text summarization. You can do some, maybe when you want to do your next project now, or thesis or masters or anything, you can look at that. You can look like being able to do things like that. Text summarization, things like being able to take notes and summarize it. Maybe start with transcribing audio and then taking notes and summarize it. Or maybe something about creating abstract for research papers. Something about generating even research paper content that is custom for your own work. And maybe sentiment analysis, maybe things that will help you to understand your brand reputation. Brand reputation, customer emotions in e-commerce. Whenever you are going to stay, businesses will stay ahead of the competition. politicians would stay ahead of the campaign, right? Because they want to understand the emotion of the people that are voting for them and all those things. Question generation and answering, great for teachers as educational tools. And like I said, there is a current research now in our lab that students are working on it with my colleagues and myself. And so all of these chatbots for customer support, creative writing, things like generating a poem, generating stories, taglines, and so on, taglines for marketing, or content creation for social media, where you can just post. Sometimes you just find it, you are not that you don't know the right words, you know it in your brain, but you just can't put it together, right? We have the oracle that has already read all the words in the universe and can help you to craft something based on your thoughts, right? So you want things like that, translation between different languages, and I really must recommend the effort of people that have been working on things like translation into Yoruba language, because sometimes it's not a sin to be biased because I'm a Yoruba person, right? And I'm always excited when I see such projects, because I want to see my language. I want to see it also at the forefront. The Yoruba language. I want to be able to ask something for ChatGPT and not get what I'm currently getting now, because what I'm currently getting now is not yet there. It's great, but we want to do more, right? So we want to be able to, because we don't want to put false information out there, right? There's a difference between Orie Oda and Orie Oda. So, but ChatGPT still doesn't understand those differences. Those are just very two opposites. One is a blessing, the other one is a curse, right? And they look similar. So someone that is not Yoruba will think you are saying the same thing. But can you imagine that I want to greet you and I'm saying Orie Oda, and I think I'm greeting you, I wanted to say Orie Oda. So, so all of this, we want to be able to put those content that is sparse. We want to be able to put it out there. Otherwise, ChatGPT will even be worse than what we are thinking. In terms of, if we turn back, instead of giving you paracetamol for headache, it gives you something else, and that's become another problem. So, as language learning tools. So that's what we are saying, talking of language. And so in the next 30 minutes, I believe we should be rounding up this session, and then we'll wrap up after Jumat, right? After break and Jumat. So we have, so this is something about text summarization on the document there. This is an example now of text summarization. So we have this text. So now, first of all, I think I provided notes. Let me just tell you what to do if you want to do the steps that you follow. The steps, so that will make it clearer. That will make it clearer. Well, let's have a tip of the iceberg here. Now, this is going to be homework, all these notes, right? All these notes is going to be homework for you to read and understand what transformer is all about, because you want to understand the brain behind what you are building. The problem is that many of us, we want to start from the end, not the beginning, right? So, but again, it's the architecture and the beauty of that architecture. That's what I was saying at the beginning, like this is still neural net, but with a transformer architecture. So, and so we want to say, okay, these are some models that are already existing. So, like I think my colleague was saying yesterday, talking about OpenAI, I don't know if it was DG or the professor, but I think I heard something like that. So talking about AI, OpenAI is the actual company, right? And then we have all these models that they have built and named it. It's just like you have a product, Omo, Maclean's, toothpaste is toothpaste, but you have McLean as a brand, right? And also, and then you have Lever Brother, the company, right? So just see it as that. So we have, for example, Dept, which is a product from Google, right? And it's just one of the many models that Google has. So we have T5 also from them. So for example, BERT is used mostly if you want to do things that have to do with classification. You can read their documentation about what it looks like, and that makes it really ideal, suitable for classification tasks. Then you can look at yes, BERT, T5, and maybe BAT also from them. And then, so for example, for T5, it's more when you are more like doing it some risk. I mean, more of an NLP researcher, because all the things that we have to be talking about, ChatGPT and so on, is language, is text. So it gives a text-to-text framework, and then we have the BAT, which we also use for things like also sequence, which we call sequence-to-sequence models. So also for BAT, so we can, and many people like to use it for text generation and text summarization. And we also lastly have GPT, right? Yeah, that is more like a decoder that is just a transformer that has only decoder, right? I can't talk so much about that because of our time, but the previous one, they have encoder, decoder, right? So this one has decoder transformer so that, but it's mostly for text generation. It always like generates text going forward, right? Based on the correct context that you give it. And based on paying attention, like I said, using attention mechanism to pay attention on every word that you give it, so that it can use it to generate future text based on what it has learned in the past with all the global things that it has learned from. So for us to be able to, okay, sorry, apologies that I was not keeping my eyes on text. So, but I want to also I want to reverse a little bit because Tolulope mentioned that our own training took 10 days. His or our own training took 10 days. Then Emmanuel took 8 days. And then Lama took 10 days also for Tolulope. And another person says, depending on the size of the data, that is Abiola, sometimes 21 days or more than a month. Okay, thank you for your contribution. So we have so if we want to implement, like I mentioned before, we're going to be using Hugging Face library, and most of the implementation will be done after lunch break. So the Hugging Face, when we are dealing with NLP models, tools, libraries, we have a lot of pre-trained models and tools that have been provided. So for different tasks as well. So don't see it as ChatGPT alone is the way. And if you can't afford it, that is the end of research. No. Actually, you will see that many of them have what ChatGPT cannot do, because it depends on how it is trained and what kind of data it is trained with. So its pipeline is also very straightforward. That is, you have it, the API is very easy to use, like beginner friendly, and very great for custom and fine-tuning tasks. So for the Hugging Face model, there is BERT. We see I've mentioned all this model, and you can see all of them are already supported by Hugging Face, right? So with Hugging Face, with Hugging Face Transformers library, the Hugging Face provide a transformer that uses many of the tools that are provided by all these companies, even including OpenAI. The only thing is that only GPT-2 is available from OpenAI in Hugging Face. So if you are still interested in using GPT, then you can still use GPT-2 in Hugging Face without needing an API or anything. So you have BERT, you have T5, and you have the DSAI and many more, right, that are available in Hugging Face. They have been trained on large data sets so that there's no need to train from scratch and everything. And they have their own tokenizer. In NLP, we teach tokenization a lot, but it's already implicit. You don't want to worry yourself about the tokenization because each of them already have their own tokenizer. They do everything for you. They do normalization and everything that needs to be done. And then you can just create instances from them. So there is a pipeline that we use, which you can now use to generate the NLP task. So these are the common pipelines that are available in login phase. So you have things, and you can go through all of these tables. You cannot do all, but I don't know where your need will be met. Just narrow it down to where your need will be met, whatever kind of research you are doing now or you plan to do in future. Things that have to do with text classification, token classification, question answering, text generation, translation, summarization, and so on. So just look for what works for you. But we're going to be picking conversational, right? Because we want to pick something. And for this essence, we want to be able to have conversation with an AI, maybe with an API also, with maybe with a user interface also that users can use to work with that model. So now these are parameters that we'll be using, picking from some of the parameters after the break, so that when you create the pipeline to do your to use the model, so you want to like look at things like, first of all, what task do you want to do will have to be specified. Even if, I mean, we only need to understand one of these, and we are picking conversational AI, right? And I've given all the names. The way I put it here is the actual name for the pipeline. I mean, at least as at now, as at maybe a few days ago when I tested some of them. So, but you know, they keep updating their library. So it is your responsibility to find out if the name has changed or something. It's always very easy. Just go to the documentation and you will find what name it has. So there are parameters. I mean, you need to put a parameter, you know, you call a function, you put a parameter, right? So the first thing, first on the list here is task. So what you are saying is that for task, you are talking about what task do you want to do? Pick from any of these tasks, right? Text classification, token classification, and so on. And find out what name they use to represent it. So you say text classification or summarization. So in our own case, if you want to do conversational AI, then it means we are going to select conversational, right? That will be the first parameter that we pass into the pipeline. So we will say conversational, put it in quotes, right? And then we have model. Then if you are interested in using a model, specify the model that, I mean, a specific model. You don't want to use the default model that is being provided by the website. So you can just say, okay, this is the model I want to use, and then specify. I mean, the other parameters are not as important, but the fourth parameter must be there. If you have a GPU or if you have a GPU, because this also can take time, especially loading the model. Some of these models are like, yes, I mean, the models themselves are like 10 gigabytes big or more. So for you to load, because you need to load it and get it into your code first. For you to load it, you have to still wait a long time. And so that is where GPU will be useful, but you are not going to wait for 10 days anymore because that is not training. You are just loading the model, right? But the good news is that some of these models can load very fast. But again, we know that your output is always a consequence of your investments, right? And so unless you rob the bank, you cannot just wake up one morning and turn into billionaire unless maybe you win lottery. But you can acquire the wealth over time, right? So that is it. You need a model that is really, really that has a very enormous wisdom, right? Then that model is likely going to be big, right? So that's the point. But sometimes you can try your code and everything out with a smaller model that will make it fast. So once you are now ready, you can now load a bigger model, right? To work on it. So now, which means if you have a GPU, which has faster processing, you can specify the device. -1 for CPU, 0 for GPU, for the first CPU. I mean, for the first GPU, if there are multiple GPUs, second GPU, third GPU, you specify 0, 1, I mean, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So you can look at all of this and see what they do and look at the example of how to use it here, right? So for example, we say when you load, you specify the task. The parameter is task is equal to specify the task that you want to achieve. Start with pipeline and then load the model text classification. Load the model. Here is all text classification. And then specify the device. Specify what particular model you want to use for your text classification, right? So here we are saying, here we are using text classification for tokenizer. So we are saying we are using text classification for tokenizer. So you specify that you want to use this particular model. You specify the model name. Yes, so you specify the model name here. It's still based on cased, fine-tuned, blah, blah, blah. That is the name. Spell it right, copy paste it, because that is the name it will be looking for whenever it wants to use that model. So we go on and on and on. And you can even build your own pipeline, right? That is the beauty of it, but you will also need time for that. You can train also from their system. And but we should know that many of them we should also know that though, you should know that they are generalized. Some of them can actually, it doesn't mean that, some of them can be used, for example, if you look at this, if you look at this, we are using a pipeline of text classification in so many ways, right? We are using it for summarization. We are using it for, we are using, yes, exactly. So many of them are generalized. And then question, okay. That's why it is a pipeline. You can join. Yes. You can add output cassava and input to something else. So like I told you, the world of coding is so beautiful. See yourself as the small god of what you are creating, because you cannot be a god. So anyway, just see yourself. You are in charge. You can dismantle it. You can just first of all think through it. Because as you are imagining now, you can begin to write things down and note. I will be amazed at what this group is going to be doing after this, because we can also put thoughts together, right? You can involve an idea and somebody else will pipeline it with their own idea. Before you know it, we will eventually come up with something great. So since the steps to use your, so you can, so that's why, okay, like in the first bullet, I say you can build custom pipelines, right? So that's possible. And so to use Hugging Face, just like we have learned about all other libraries, first of all, you have to install the library, you have to import the model that you made, and lastly, you have to choose the pipeline. And we are going to stop we're going to stop here should we stop here at the moment so that people can go for break and Juma, and we can do like an actual implementation from beginning to the end before we get the certificates. And so for the people on online, stretch your feet and everything. We are here, and for also, if we have MC, maybe you can let the music begin and serve the food. So we will converge again at let's say an hour from now, or 45 minutes from now. Let's say 45 minutes from now. That is at what time is it now? Okay, what time are you finishing? 2:30. Finishing or being here? So last time I showed you some of the models that we can use to make the LLM better. And I said, if you are going to be needing this model, you go through these steps, just like what we have been doing regularly. That's what is typical of any project like this. So you first install the library and import the model that you need, and then you choose a task. Now, if you are choosing a task, that is what you want to do. In this case, we're trying to get a conversational AI to work. So you can use pipeline that has been predefined, or you can get a model. I mean, or you can have like your own custom pipeline. So we are going to be trying to see if we can do both as we go on. And first of all, let's look at using it for text classification. And you already know that text classification I mentioned before can do many tasks, many general tasks. So that's something that is really good. Because, for example, you might want to like let it learn how to classify text from your emails to say, oh, this is a spam email, this is not a spam, you know. Even up to now, you still have some, because you have, like, if you use Gmail or Yahoo Mail and so on, they have their own spam classifier that help us to send some automatically send some mail to the spam box. But sometimes they misclassify it. Why? Because they are just trying to be general, right? So which means, for example, which country in the world understand the meaning of 419? Nigeria. 419 will mean a number to any other country, right? But it means much more to us, right? So in that case, if somebody is, maybe if you have a trend, maybe also if we have like a classifier, a classifier that is able to see whenever you see something like 419, or maybe you have an email and then you forward it to your friend, you are like, oh, this is a 419 mail, and please send it to spam and everything. Such a model may eventually, in other countries, whenever it sees 419, he send it to spam, right? So the same thing is happening to us somehow. So we might need to actually find a model that works. And these are the reasons why we need to build and improve on all these models. So let's look at getting a classifier. We're getting help from the pipeline, right? We're getting help from the Hugging Face pipeline. And I said the first thing is that you first of all want to specify the task. And when you look on this table, since task classification is what to do, find the name, right? This is the exact name. If they change it tomorrow, just use whatever name they are using, right? For the name of the task, right? So you are saying, okay, this is the name of the task you want to do. You want to use text classification. You want to do text classification. And then this is to specify the actual model you are interested in using, right? But actually, that is optional. Let me make sure that I'm using a fast runtime. Yes. So now, so you are saying, okay, this is the model, but actually, it's enough to say, well, I don't even want to use a dedicated model. Just use your defaults. And I'm going to just remove this. This is the basics that you need, right? This is the basics that you need, you see, and you can do the same thing. You can do the same thing with all of the other things that summarization, feature extraction, and so on. And then put the name of your model. So now that is the task, right? Task tokenizer. One of the things that I'm going to do now is to use a parameter called device, right? So which means if you have like a faster GPU, why don't you just use it? So I'm going to have like device equals, device equals 1, right? So if you have like the device equals 1, you're saying, okay, use the CPU. Or you can say, okay, 0, use the first GPU, right? So great. So, but we want to use GPU. So because I want to say, okay, this is the actual device that I want to use. So I go on, and so the next thing I want to do is that I've created my pipeline for the text classifier, right? And remember, I already removed the parameter. That is, I don't care what model that you use, right? So I can say, okay, so let's say the text I want to classify is this. I absolutely love the new update. It's fantastic. And if you have a list, just use the approach I taught you before. Have a list of text, 1,000 list of messages or whatever that you want to classify. And then as your result, all you just need is to pass this text into the classifier instance that you have created. Does that make sense? And so we take that text, right? And we put it in. And that gives you the result. And the result will tell you, and because I'm using a different model now, was it a mistake? A typo? Oh, I need to. I think we opened this from the beginning again. So we have to go ahead and import. Oh,
the one you commented there.
Where is it?
The comment there.
Oh, yeah. So because once I finish it, I always like to comment it because I don't want to repeat it. So we need these two ones, right? So we need to import the type pipeline, and then we need to load classifier is this. We need to classifier is yeah. So we need to it's very great that my students, even after eating, they are not sleeping. Yeah. So we want to now load the classifier, and this is how we load the classifier. Now we need to import the pipeline to be used, right? So we go ahead and import it and make it available, and it's because now we are using a default model. Okay, it will need to use the default model. It needs time to load it and configure it, right? And then apply it on our label to give. So which means what I had now is a positive label. And what I mean is a positive label, and the score is this to show you that it has a very strong positive score. If you have not known about sentiment analysis or classification, which is about classification of whether it is spam. I mean, this is actually more okay. So let's do with another. Let's do with a specific model. You can read about each of these models because they have different. They are doing the same thing, but yeah, they have different ways of doing it. So here we have the model we are using is this, and we still have the device, right? We still are, let's leave this here. I'm going to put this here. So let's load another pipeline, and I will just leave this as it is. So let's load another pipeline in a different cell. And so we have this pipeline that we're using in this cell, and then we want to get the results. And now it's also positive. That's a strong positive score, and it's 0.9998 as well. It's almost the same value. Let me see if they use the same. Yes, that's the default that it used. So that's why they have the same value, right? So, but you can try other models. We don't have time to, but I provided a list of those because some of them are really heavy. So I provided a list on the table. Was it on the table? I thought I had it somewhere. Maybe somewhere below. Okay, so but let's just move forward. So we have so like I said, you might want to do like multiple inputs. Now, let's say you use file or whatever to load your elements. Eventually, you want to put it on a list like this, right? You want to put it eventually on a list like this. For example, the service was terrible and the food was cold. That's something. This is the best product I've ever used. I'm not sure how I feel about this, right? And then we can go on and still, all you need is the loop. That is for every element in this list, right? You want to go ahead and get the text and the results, and then you can go ahead and print it out. I mean, when you look at it very well, you will understand how this, the output works, because you are saying text and then go on a new line, read more about Python and how it handles string, right? So you are saying, okay, the text should be variable, the value that it pulls out from memory, right? And every other thing will be written as it is. So you have the text, right? So this is the text, because you want to make it presentable. Remember, the people that are using it, they probably don't know anything Python. So you want to make it in a way that they will understand what you are telling them. So you have, this service was terrible and the food was cold. Okay, so let's go ahead. And so we have this result. We are having this, and then we are still using the same model that we use, the classifier that we created, right? To say, now, do it for all of the elements in this list, right? Does that make sense? Great. So, and you can see this looks like negative, like really negative. And sometimes, even from the Nigeria, I will have asked the question before we see the answer. From the Nigeria context, if I tell you, I don't know how I feel about this, does it look negative or positive? If you were to interpret it. I don't know how I feel. It could be positive. I don't know how I feel. Yeah. Somehow. Yeah. Actually, what I want to bring out is that in the developed world, it's badly bad, right? But sometimes if it's, sometimes somebody like me will still interpret it, so it's like, you are not sure, right? Yes, in between, it may be good, it may be bad. But where English is the primary language, the mother tongue, it's a really badly bad situation. And you can see it has this strongly negative something. Please, can you keep that low? Then there is a speaker over there. So, okay, here we are using a different model, right? We're using a different model. And let's call this classifier 2 so that it doesn't overwrite the current classifier, right? So let's call it classifier 2, and then we are doing this model. Did I have a device? Okay. And then we want to find why we want to use this is that, for example, you'll be wondering, since one model is already working well, why would we need another or anything like that? Look at this now. This is able to handle multiple languages, right? So if you are looking at analyzing sentiment in multiple languages, you might want to go with this model, right? Because now this is in French and it's still able to give you. And apart from that, multiple languages, including English. For example, now if you are using English, you are saying, okay, you are good with what you have. Why should you use this? But we will see the way the output of this is happening. It rates by star. That is, I feel very strongly 5 stars about this. So which means products can use this kind of labeling to maybe rate products, right? Or rate event planners can use this to rate events, right? So based on, you can just get all the conversation that people are having. Even a teacher can just put a recorder in their class and say, okay, let me listen to all the conversation that my students are having while I'm away, right? I give them homework and then I put them together to work in teams, right? And then you come back, you try to analyze the sentiment in their conversation. That will make you to know whether the kind of project you gave them is really true. How they feel about it, whether they feel frustrated, because eventually if you pass it through this kind of model, it gives a rating, and that is the kind of measurable scale that you can use for further analysis, right? So you might consider this kind of model. So now you have this gives you, because this should be classifier 2 that should be using this model. I will let it finish running so that we can just comment it out and still use it. Okay, so We can just comment it out since classifier 2 has been loaded. Now, classifier 1 does this and gives a negative label with a score of 0.979 because that was the older model. So let's do classifier 2. And then, no, we don't need to comment because this is still in memory. Yeah, and I want to save our time. Yeah, so this is how it does its own output. 5 stars, and the score is this 0.8 something. But if you are starting a new notebook or you are working with something that doesn't have, you want to make sure that you first of all create the instance before you use it, right? So, and you can also use English in it. I'm just opting this because it's language is multi-language, yes. So now we have, yes. Sorry about that network. So here we. Okay. So hopefully we still have this stuff state here because it was just very brief. And then we have, so let's have classifier. If we are going to have, well, let's just use classifier 2 again for this, right? That's the one that is trained with, that has multi-language. And now we use an English sentence. And then we want to print the result. And then it gave it a 1 star, apparently. So if you are the type that rates so many products, maybe as a job, you can just maybe have, if you have an API that can help you with this kind of situation, you just get paid. Write your code once and get paid for sleeping, right? Yes. Huh? Yes. For the value of the set. No, it's not about the accuracy of the training. That is another thing entirely in research. This is the score. This is the sentiment score, kind of. Because this uses, but not really on a scale, not just negative, positive. It uses a scale. The highest score is 5. The lowest score is 1. The most negative is 1. So, and then it gives, so you're talking about the score, the star. Score. Yes, so this is the sentiment score, the score that it actually gives it.
We give the training.
No.
Just
that is giving it a score.
Okay.
Yes. It's giving it like a score, yeah. Because 0.4 is a really bad score. The fact that it has a rating of 1 doesn't mean that it must have a score of 0. So you can't get 44% in exam and expect to pass. Yes. Because some things will also have 1 star and they can be like maybe 0.5 or something like that. So we have, so these are some models that you can use for, like we have tried 2 of them, but these are other models that you can use for test classification in non-game phase, like at least as at the moment, current ones. So hopefully more ones will come, and and then I try to put what they help you with. These 4 are for sentiment analysis. If you are really interested in tweets, because tweet has a lot of emojis, smiley face, and all those things, this is the way to go. It will be more, because it was trained with tweets, so that will be more accurate with tweets. And so it was fine-tuned with tweets, so you can, and it also helps you with, if you're interested in things like positive, neutral, and negative sentiment, then that's the way to go. If you are looking at things, what was trained with social media generally, then you are looking at Roberta. It's also Twitter. It's also from Twitter. Twitter is also social media, and Twitter and other social media activity. And so so all of this was for sentiment analysis, right? And if you are looking at multi-label text classification and also multilingual, you go with this. So just go through it and see what you want. If you are not sure what you want, you can at least use the one that is general, right? Use the one that is general. And if you are looking at zero-shot classification, does anybody remember what zero-shot is? Yes. What's zero-shot? Great. You are not providing any additional. I think I still have more candles to give out because I don't want to go anywhere with excess luggage, right? So, all right. So if you're also wondering what task, let's say, like I said, you want to do something like 1 to 5 skills, then you might be looking at this particular model, right? So I just provide all of this so that you can look at it and see what, so this now summarize like the comparing at least 3 popular models that you can use for classification task, right? And so sometimes you want to also fine-tune the model, right? You want to fine-tune the model. The idea is that, first of all, prepare your data set that you want to use to find. Now we have used a model that we don't know what it was trained with. All we know is that it's a good model. Now, sometimes it's still not good enough for your task and you want to fine-tune it. So first of all, you format the text and the label that you want to use. So make sure you have something like JSON format. Sorry about that. So if you want to fine-tune that our label, first of all, you need data to say, oh, I know that based on your own understanding, this model, in your own understanding and language, based on the data that you were trained with, whenever people say, I am coming, right? Maybe it's a good thing or whatever classification you are giving it, or whatever classification you are giving it, right? But my fellow brothers and sisters here, if someone in our language says, I'm coming, can anyone tell me what that means? Yes, sir. So if you say I'm coming, it means, okay, thank you, sir, for analyzing that as Agbalagba. It means, God bless you, sir. It means see you some other day, fine. But technically, in universal language, I'm coming towards you, right? That is English interpretation, right? So let's now say this doesn't work for you, right? Let's say this doesn't work for you, then it means you need to like tell it, right? So, for example, thank you very much, sir, for that explanation. You can actually label it that way. So say, okay, whenever something like coming means see you some other time, right? So that you can have, let's say, this kind of conversational AI that we're trying to create. Because, for example, so it can have that connection. It can have that way of now, ChatGPT now can speak some Yoruba, right? Though it's still not perfect. But it still doesn't speak my actual dialect from Ekiti, right? I can be privileged to say, ChatGPT, you can speak Yoruba, and you know a lot of words in Yoruba, which some of them are also the same words in Ekiti. So that will lessen my burden. But I can give it additional data sets to say, this is my own dialect, right? So all we are saying is that give it, format the text that you want to give it, a new label, that this is it. For example, sentiment, good sentiment. In Yoruba, we also have something like pẹ̀lẹ́ o, pẹ̀lẹ́, pẹ̀lẹ́. Yes.
Said by new leadership, it's going to train like throughout time, all that general that's it. We're just going to train
It's just going to focus, it's just going to learn from your own. It already has its knowledge. Its knowledge is its knowledge. You are just giving it additional wisdom, right? So that you can now say, I am Momo Ekiti. Let's talk, right? And then it can now check, oh, I don't know anything about Momo Ekiti, but thank you for giving me. Yes, so let's work with that, right? So that's what it means. It's still about machine learning because the more you give it also, the more it learns. Exactly. If you have a child that is a math wizard, a genius, right? That doesn't mean that the day that child is born is as a genius as my professor here, right? No matter how much, the child needs time to get to that level, right? And need time meaning you are acquiring the data. You are acquiring the data. But a machine already has that time, yes. And so it's also using its own time in terms of micro time, right? But you give it the data. And the more you give it also, no matter how genius that child is, the child needs to learn something that it will build on. It cannot evolve its own knowledge from what you have given it, but you need to give it that knowledge. So once you have your text, you also need the pre-trained model, right? So load your pre-trained model, and then, so let's say you want to use best case on case, and then fine-tune it, right? So fine-tune it, and well, so you need the trainer API so that you can have so you can train in efficiently. And it's also important to also evaluate it. I don't know if we have the time to do the evaluation, but you guys are great. You have already the foundation and everything, and this materials is very comprehensive. So, because this kind of training is not what we do in 48 hours, but the materials are comprehensive, and the seed has already been sown. So you just need to build on that seed. So now we are going to be getting our data set by by importing data sets from data sets. And I think we import it from somewhere before? Did we download it? I believe we had it somewhere. I don't want to. Yes, we need to install it from here. We have not. So you have to first of all install it, right? Because you can't just import it. It's not natively available. And because we have not run this, because the computer restarted, I run all of this ahead of time so that we'll be fast. But now the computer machine is still machine, right? So it's restarted. So we have to like install it. Well, install it, download everything that you need, and then we can go ahead and oh, where were we? Okay, we are here. So now we can run it because now we have installed it. So the first thing is that install it first. So install it first if you are just starting it. And then you can now import load data sets. And then you can say, because we want to use some existing data sets, right? So this is IMDb data sets. You are just, because now I think I have a shorter data set that I provided. If I don't, because we need, so now, some of you have been doing machine learning training and you are on this group, right? And we know what we call you learned something about that yesterday, did you? Yeah, about training a new data set, right? So you have to like divide your data set into the training and validation sets. The set that the test that you have, then you need to also tokenize it. Remember, your text is your text. You have to divide it into token, right? That is each word in your text. So you need auto tokenizer to do that, right? So you have to import that again from the transformer, and we have installed the transformer. Actually, it comes with a Polar. So now, which means you will go to the auto tokenizer program, and you will look to load your model using from underscore pre-trained, right? So the parameter you pass into it is what model do you want to use? Does it make sense? Okay, great. And then we create a function for pre-processing it right here. So all we are saying is that we go into our document, which we are going to load here. If you go into example, I think there is examples. So I just hope I've not. Okay, so we have this function, right? So the examples, okay, the example is what you are going to pass into this function. That is what you want to show it. You want to show the model that these are my examples that you want to learn from, right? And we call that example. And the example, when you look at the example file that I have here, there is a JSON format. If we have time, I will show you I think I showed you what JSON format was yesterday. Great. And there is also another one in text format. There is no CSV, but this text format, you can make it a CSV. You can do something in a CSV. This is not the one.
This one is text.
No, this is not the one. So, but let's go on. Yeah. So when we go into this, we have your train data, right? So you have because you want to you want to tell it to say, okay, train the data. So you are going to now say, okay, for the data that you want to train, you go into, you have a map call, right? That is train data.map, right? And then you go ahead and pass this function, right? So you go ahead and pass the pre-processed function, and because you don't want let me put it this way, you don't want it to be broken. So just set this parameter to true so that it can be loading it in batches, right? And this is also your validation data that you will use to test to validate that the model is working well. Great. So we go on. And that would shouldn't take long because let's see how much time it will take. Now on 40%. Yes, sir. Yes. No, it comes with data sets. Load data sets. No, we had to load it. That's why we had to install it, right? It's a library. Yes. Yes. So while that is going on, let's look at something. So this is using. No, let's look at something with a reduced data set, because I know that will take time. At least we know now we can load that data set, right? But let's work with a reduced data set here. Okay. So it's done. And then, so we have the training data now, we have the validation data. Now we have so let's go into, no, I don't want to use this. So let's go into let's go into this. If you want to use a reduced data set, right? If you want to use a reduced, a data set that maybe, I think, so we have the load data set, and we have so this is also doing the training with IMDb, but I'm giving it a distilled beds. Yeah, so I believe I'm changing the parameter here, right? I'm changing the parameter here to a smaller data set, right? So here you just specify the range that you are using as opposed to, when you just ask it to load the entire data set, right? So here you are saying use, so you are saying, and it's always good to shuffle that data set, right? Otherwise it will be skewed towards, we don't know whether it was arranged alphabetically or in some certain order. So you just like shuffle the data set. So in that case, you shuffle it with a randomized value of 42. That's commonly used, a seed of 42. And then, so this is a small train data. This is a small validation data. Normally validation data is much lesser than so, and then you still go ahead and do the training again, do the process again with it. And so we want to go on with this. I'm just looking out for the very important thing that we need to do. That we need to do quickly. Oh, I need to give you a lot on this side. Let me see if I can just go and explain. Oh, there's something, this involves 1 dB. And this has to do with API. I'm trying to avoid using API at the moment. So I'm going to stop this. I'm going to stop this. I knew I wanted to skip that. That's why I was trying to look through to make sure that's what I want to show. So requires API. I'm going to put it there. For those of you that can just go, this is actually free, the API. You can just go to the website and log in. You have to create an account, log in, get your API, and come and paste it in there to continue. So I'm just going to say requires API. So it requires, yes. So let's go on with, and then you can go and evaluate it. If you are going to be evaluating the model, and then all you just need to do is on the trainer, you just call the evaluate method, and it tells you how perfect your evaluation is, right? And then you can try another one, try another way, try another data set, and go on, and use all the things you've learned so far, put them in some CVS, CSV, put them in some CSV, and look at all the values. There's no time again to explain all of this, but the statisticians here, the mathematicians here, they know about them. They probably, of course, you already know your evaluation accuracy. You are trying to look for a high accuracy as much as possible. So currently with the training that was done before, the accuracy was 0.88, which is great. I'm surprised that some students that they suddenly get an accuracy of 99.9% at their first attempt, right? I'm always like something is fishy, right? So it takes some period of fine-tuning and everything for you to get there. 88 is good. It's not bad, right? So we have last thing I want to do, there are notes here about fine-tuning tips and so on. There are notes about when you want to fine-tune. I mean, and so this is about token classification for people that are interested in token classification task. They can do that, and the models that they can use for classification of tokens, they are listed there. And there is like you want to do classification and then text generation. This is the juice of everything where you want to generate text. Can we just hello? So in terms of text generation, so you want to do creative writing, what you have been doing with ChatGPT and all these things, you want to see how you can actually make it more productive and dynamic with code. And so we are still using Hugging Face, right? And it's pretty much very straightforward. We still need the pipeline, right? It's in the Hugging Face pipeline. And then we are saying this is what we need, because I gave you a list of the models. So we need a text generation model. One of them is GPT. So use GPT-2. You specifically say there is BERT, there are other GPT. And then, so you create an instance of your generation, of your generator, so that you can apply it on any. So once you get that done, you can now go ahead and use that generator on anything, right? So for example, imagine you are typing on ChatGPT playground, and you are like, artificial intelligence is transforming, you are expecting ChatGPT to complete it for you, right? So now in the code, you are saying your output, create an instance from the generator, using GPT-2. I'm using it because it's free in Hugging Face. It's free, it's available in Hugging Face, but higher ones, you have to use it directly by making OpenAI API call to achieve that. So we have artificial intelligence and there are other parameters that you can also read about. For example, I say, okay, I don't want too much information. I just want a maximum length of 50. And then number of return sequences as well. And I think I told you about this yesterday. And it goes on and it generates, artificial intelligence is transforming into a massive financial industry, blah, 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 and so on. There are other parameters. You can change the randomness. You can change so many things, right? You can do some trade and balance about whether you want to every time you run it, you want to be getting the same output, or you want to get varied outputs, right? So, those are the parameters that you can change, right? For example, maximum length is what you just saw. Number of return sequence, that is different output that you want it to generate at the same time. The temperature, that's the parameter that you will assign to change the randomness. So if you have a value like 0.7, then it means it will be like a more focused test. The same thing. So the higher it is, then when it goes higher, right? So if you increase it to something like 1.5, then it means there will be more creativity in it, right? So top K limit, so that how many maximum top number of tokens that you want it to use. With that, it will help you with the current score value that is being used within the model. And then top P. So that's again about the cumulative probability. But most importantly, maybe you're interested in maximum length and so on. So this is an example of passing those parameters now. And the thing is that just try to vary those parameters. Yes, max length and temperature. So this is just to show the other things. Because, for example, if you're also looking at return sequence, maybe you want to vary, you want to see these 3 or 4 different generated outputs, and then you can now maybe pass it through some other evaluation to say, okay, choose one of those 3, right? So we now go ahead and do the generation of our test based on the parameters that we have provided here. And you can change those parameters and see how it affects the output. So because we set it now to generate 3 texts, so it's generating the 3 texts there. So like I said, there is GPT-2 that we just used. GPT-3, you have to go through API, OpenAI API directly, not from Hugging Face. And then there is BAT that is also provided, and there is GPT-Neo as well. So we have all of this and some description about it and some ideas about when you should use it, right? And then, so if you are trying to look at all of these models, just go here and you will find in the Hugging Face website. Go in this directory, you will find all of these models and you can explore them and load them from there. So let's say you have, this is an example of a conditional generation, and whereby you are saying, this is a prompt, you use your generation and this, and then you want to find the outputs. You want to find the first output. Yes, you want to find the first output. And then sometimes you want to fine-tune it for your custom need as well. And so just be creative. Share your project, share your link, and let us see it on the group. And then lastly, working with conversational AI based on all that we have done so far, I would say this is the kind of architecture that you use to work with conversational AI. You have the user interface, which goes through natural language understanding and dialogue management, and then goes through the generation pipeline, NLG pipeline, and then there is a back-end integration and a feedback loop. And all those are explained over there. We also still need the transformers and data sets, and then import the libraries that we need. This time around, we also need touch. And we need transformers, we need also auto tokenizer and auto model for partial LLM. So load the so you have to load the model, you have to load the tokenizer. So this is the model that we're interested in, right? And this is the tokenizer. So we have our model loaded and the tokenizer. So here we are adding tokens. So we want to because your input sequence may not be balanced. So you want to balance it by just setting a path. So we go ahead and then this is the function. This is the function. I think I have the function here. Yes. I think I'm on soon. That's why I'm recording. Okay, so you can look at summarizers. Let me finish this, and then we can go ahead and finish this. Okay, let me just go ahead and finish from here. Where were we actually? Yes. Okay, so here, and then, so now the beauty about this is that we are also trying to combine previous conversation with current conversation, right? So we go ahead, so we use chart history ID to achieve that. And so we go ahead. I think we should have the chart history ID somewhere before this. Just chart history. Probably. That should be in another. That should be in another document. This is actually what I was looking for. Oh, there must be tokenizer is here. Yeah, I know this is somewhere. Okay, let's just use this, right? Let's just use this. So now you have this chat function. You have this chat function. So let's say this is the prompt you want to give, right? So this is the prompt you want to give. And as you are chatting with the ChatGPT, let's say you are a professional, you remember what I told you about different ways by which you can give prompts. So you are saying you are a professional and polite assistant. Respond helpfully. And this is a parameter. User types something, right? To which you are going to respond, right? And then you have the input ID as you now have an encoder without passing through the encoder, right? So for your tokenizer, right? Because you need to tokenize it again, whatever the user is putting in. And then, so you now go ahead and have, because we are using touch, right? Which we already imported somewhere before, right? And then, so you call the cat method, and then this is what we need. Oh, I had a chat history ID that I saved somewhere, but I don't know how it was deleted. And then you have, oh yeah, so that's why I brought it into this function. So that's good. We can just call this function and the function will help to achieve that. So you pass the chat into this function, right? So that's why I deleted it. Now I realize that. So you have the chat history ID and then you have the input ID, right? And most importantly, you are interested in now, you are interested in the attention mask. You remember that LLM use attention mechanism, the framework of the transformer. I mentioned something about that this morning, whereby it passes an attention on different work. The cat sat on the mat. There is a connection between cat and mat, but there is a distance. Yet, all the way from cat, it still connects with mat. So there will be more attention between cat and mat than on that is in between them. And then there will also be more attention on SAT based on all its training and everything. So it uses all its training and then it still uses attention, right? Because it knows there must be a relationship between SAT and mat. You can't see it on water, but you can see it on mat. So there will be a connection based on what it has learned. And then it still puts attention score on each value. So we have, you can read about again all of these parameters, which we have seen before, but most importantly, we want to now go ahead and generate the model, right? So, we want to go ahead and generate with all of these parameters, right? And so we go on and then we also need to remember it's an encoder decoder mechanism. So we still have to decode what has come out of it because it has been tokenized and everything, and then we need to decode it. And so we pass it through the decode, right? And then we have a return. This is a whole function. So the return will be responding with a response and your chat history ID, right? And so okay, that has been run. And we can now go ahead and call this chat with bots. Chat with bots. Okay, right here. So we have it as the response that we have to chat with the bot. So we call that, and we call it with user input, right? We call it with user inputs and the chat history IDs, right? And so when you call the chat with bot with the user input and the chat history ID, it goes and gets your chat in board function, chat with bot function, and it gives it the user inputs and the chat history ID, right? And then, but for now, we are setting it to none. You can see in the function, right? So now we go and have, okay, this is what we do. First of all, this is what the chatbot is going to say. Hi, how can I help you? And then the chat history ID now is, we are setting it as none to start with because it's an object, right? So we have, for as long as this is true, repeating the same process. So we want our chatbot to be repeating the same process. So first of all, the input is you, right? Because it means you are this, you are that. Does that make sense? So, I mean, that's another one. This input is you. That is, you are typing, right? So it prints this out and says, this is from you, so that you can now type something. So, and as you see, as part of our normalization we learned yesterday, we try to put all of it in lowercase, right? So we have, so if your input is either exit or quit, so whether you type it with capital letter or anything, it means it will stop running. Does that make sense? So now we are saying, before it stops running, we want it to have some courtesy. Say goodbye before, and it's up to you now to decide. Maybe you have a cat that will bow down before leaving or whatever it is, but you want it to be like kind of nice. And then, so, but all of these are decorations. They don't mean that the function will not work, right? So now, if it is like reset, then reset the ID again so that it won't remember anything about the chat. And then you say, so it prints chatbot will say conversational history reset, and then you can continue. And so you have the chat with bot call, and it just prints the response, right? And so when we go on with it, it said, hi, how can I help you? And you begin to type, right? Because it's getting, so can you give me some food? I would, but I'm not allowed to be here. I'd rather just eat myself. Right? So you keep chatting, and when you are done, press exit and everything. So I hope this will be helpful for you to now turn into something. And this is a summarization pipeline. So just go through it. You want to summarize text and everything. And let's keep the ball rolling. I can't wait to see what you are going to say about your next project, the next conference where you are presenting it, or the next journal where you are publishing it. And for my students here, the next poster where you are presenting it. And I hope some of you will join us at the conference that we have at Pennsylvania in February. All right.
Thank you very much.
So one last thing, please. One last thing. There is an exit feedback. There is an exit feedback that you need to fill. So before we talk about certificates, I'm going to share the exit feedback now on the charts and also on the WhatsApp group. And I will also project it on the screen so that I can quickly do that while the DJ gives the closing remark. Oh, somebody complained that sound is not loud again. Okay, thank you very much. All right, so we have the exit feedback link that I'm sharing right away.
We ask for our
Okay, sir.
so that you also try to, when you do a trading, nice an entry, so that it's at the end of the day, you can ask yourself if you have pattern knowledge and people's feedback help in improving the next trading practice.
That's it. Okay.
Because
I've shared it.
all of this. So we are complicated, we are impacted, and we have left our better game as a result of this. So I'll just select three people feedback what their experiences are like. Those feedback, even though you are still on course, doctor.
Lecturer. Oh, okay.
Not that I'm fully exposed to it, but at least I'm able to understand what transformers are, the NLP. So if I see it's all magic that is happening after.
Oh, I think
Know that there'll be a follow-up. And I was telling my position, I'm going to the guys saw the documentation I've been given to us, more on that. And I believe maybe more next to call. We also work on having the feedback, the entry and the.
Okay, sorry, it's accepting responses now.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you to National Center for Learning Management for that investment and also the accommodating us. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
No, I was just saying that it wasn't accepting, the form was not working before, but it's working now. So I want to say that I'm really very excited and very grateful to every one of you, everyone, students, colleagues, seniors. You have left your comfort zone to be at this workshop. I want to say thank you very much. Thank you also for the partnership that we have with Wentworth Institute of Technology. This is amazing. I was saying yesterday, the last time I came to Nigeria, I was sweating, not because of the heat, but because of the situation in terms of internet knowledge and access. So, but now, it's so very, there is so much improvement in terms of the knowledge about AI and everything that we have in the country. And it's really, really very great. And I hope we'll keep it up and keep up doing the good work. I'm really grateful, and I hope we'll keep on building the connection. I want to say to the director, thank you for the trust you have invested in me as well, the Director General for Marketing, and everyone, especially my students, former students and now colleagues, Dr. Olifale, that facilitated this process, that initiated this process. So I want to say thank you for the trust that everyone has invested in me and for making this worthwhile venture. I appreciate it, and I look forward to this building on this foundation. And the sky will just be the beginning. And I also want to say thank you, of course, to my campus, to my university, to my school, to my university, and to the School of Computing and Data Science, to my colleagues that came, though they are not right here on Zoom, but I know this is also being recorded. And I want to say thank you very much for the backing you have given us to make the situation in my home country better. I appreciate it.
I will take a few more. Please don't be embarrassed.
Good afternoon, everyone. Alright, before now, I wasn't familiar with AI. Not that I wasn't familiar, but today, yesterday's lecture today actually brought my knowledge about AI. I was interested in data science, but with this, in fact, I had to read a blog yesterday, and I was telling my people WhatsApp that they were not here. I was here on their behalf, and I'm doing on their behalf. So I'm grateful for the people that set this up, and I can't wait to explore. Thank you. Now to my everybody. I have a little to say that what I noticed is that this organization, everything is, who knows me say this, is more than excellent. I bought two of my tips here yesterday, and I see what's going on. Like, the other guy who just my, he said he's interested in the want to deal with security, cyber security expert. But now, when we get home yesterday, he's telling me he has something more important than security. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. The experience has been amazing, and I think it's workshop like an eye-opener for everyone that is about going to it. And to help us choose the field we want to go into. I think once go into AI is to what is get started at the areas you focus on, what you can think to get more better. I love to support this workshop. Thank you to everyone that organized this workshop.
So there is another form on the screen there. If you are camera shy or microphone shy, please share a word. Go to menti.com again. You are familiar with it. Use code 76274202. Menti.com. Use this code, and if you have spoken before and you still want to share something, share it there. And let's see how the messages will be popping out. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, the Shawren event was the workshop quite great. Because initially, I was not going to join because we see a lot of stuff like that online and they are not great, but I took the risk and it was worth it at the end of the day. Learned a lot, even though I thought I had enough knowledge, so nobody had enough knowledge. I thought I had some knowledge, but on getting here, figuring out that there are lots to learn actually. I love to learn now. The concept of AI has been kind of abstract to me before. It was kind of scary to go into, but on getting here, I figured out that it's also deep like that if you put your into it and actually get to understand. It's not so deep. So I'm going to use this note to thank everybody present here, the organizers, the coordinators, and also the participants for coming here and making it a very eventful. Thank you so much, everybody.
We have basically heard from our customers, students. You know, we have faculty here who also give their own perspectives. You know, I started by ensuring that our customers speak first, so that when we are responding to our customers, now know what they really want. We need to have that customer approach to education. And I love what Dr. Yinka does this morning, taking us through something that happened, but we understand that education itself also. And we have now moved from the situation where the only universities that were available are public universities. There are no private universities. And when they had private universities, they were only awarding first class degrees undergrads. But now we have graduates on reducing of fees. But they have become the standard bearers, even without us understanding. And what they did was basically delivering this something on it. So I'm going to give, start by, there is another thing about our public institutions. We tend to be great. So I'll start with those who are not become players and I'll go straight.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Adam Mustafa. I actually saw the advertisement in 20. I had to fly from Ghana to here to was I can tell you that it's really well. I've actually gone through thousands of YouTube trying to understand the concept. It's been crazy difficult, and I love the way trainer actually go through the process of writing machine learning codes. My research was learning, but it was more academic, but this was more practical. And I've always wanted to, I know as a researcher in the Center for Government Agriculture, it's an African Center of Excellence in the University. I've always wanted to see how I can use AI, apply AI for agriculture, and this is an help for me. I will say it's very worth it and no regrets at all. Thank you so much for the organizers and then also Chika.
I don't know. From Department of Biomedical Engineering, University of Lagos. It's only department in that have College of Medicine. We saw problems in medicine. So this workshop has really thank you very much. Need a lot of insights, a lot of tools we can use, especially when we are trying to design edge informatics, engineering to answer, to help clinicians to understand their patient, my PhD, which is around of January, is using computational intelligence to predict a very rare disease we call spontaneous. And one bank has actually taken my model, which we are trying to perfect they're waiting for it to this work. And this, I was even looking at one of the things that they are getting here that I will make it to make it efficient. Thank you so much. From computer science department, University of Leeds. But I want to thank DG, the thank all of the very past section. He says, our system that are AI solutions, they have been working in nice. I think one of the center was talking about New Jersey having a center help is mainstream solution. I think let's start from investor. We'll have a center or a site where all these AI tools will have what they are working on this day, and people can share knowledge. They are all working in this time. Because I can tell you that about almost 4, 5, 6 AI tools on campus. Well, we can come up with some policy, come up with some things, and have a see the form of AI community starting from the University of Lagos. I will see how we can this work is always do and get country money. So I don't want to know anything about AI. Going to that side to see what and what collectively they are doing, and then probably get to agency like to be able to present some of these ideas. Thank you very much.
Then okay, good. That ecosystem and for Pakistan, of course, when one of partners, that's the essence of why we are there. Something that
So our tendency for the response to learn this past 2 days and also to this past state of
Okay. Yes, I think, yeah, also the people on.
So, I was paying also the faculty of and this area of it's like start of this program. I think on the same thing as section A. Yeah, but I have interest in particularly because of because our pastor was on rural voting.
I'm followed. You even know to have to. I'm surely read it and give it to many people to read after. Thank you.
You know, what's in Africa? Like even the intelligence, is on our way today. Why not get the on Monday? Yeah.
So, but I think taking the information and using AI to analyze the sensor, the end of the day, these are systems that we incorporate when we are doing training. Feedback, very the most important part was if we are dispersed at the points of our finish, without all time, you don't understand the essence of us coming together, creating an ecosystem of learning and working together since you are. That's exactly what we were talking about. And you realize that our data is from there. So there's nothing based on our report. So in compared to work together, there's a lot of we are seeing neural network where you pass a picture, then very text out of now very text out of how to come when I'm very and I'll come in and have price the movie scripts and then space the fun and all of these level so it's now reached very power vision structures and all of that. And we have big photos, all different applications there. So there is a lot. And this new data, that's why inside that these applications that we have created as very child, where you say one child, child design is advertised as in application and think of branch, all children learn similar and they learn more times. So every day in my parents time, we don't just explain as this the things that are coming out. That's what was sitting out in summaries. So I'll go with one last person, and maybe I'll open one other stuff for anybody who's related to say. Thank you very much, sir. My name is Dr. Ayodele, and I am an economist. I actually specialize in economics of entrepreneurship and innovation. Presently, I coordinate the Office of Career Development Services in this university. And that's the real motivation for me to register for this workshop when I saw it. Because my task is spelled out, me. The Vice Chancellor actually wants us to instill in our students skills that will make them future ready. And when we look at all the available skills, we realize that beyond soft skills, one of the key technical skills that is required is digital literacy. So when I saw that it was coming to our own campus, I decided to register for me. One, just for me to have a feel of what's going on, because I know that I was going to meet many young people here. Two, to also learn from the experts. And three, to also see what NACETEM is doing, because this is an important agency in this one regards to vocation and digital literacy. And I will tell you, even though I missed yesterday's session, but today I'm living here with Morgan face. Yes. I'm living here with Morgan face. And the beauty of it is also, just like my colleague rightly said, we have very intelligent students here on campus. One of my own students just woke up and told me that, sir, here. But since we cannot write all this code, he feels that there's something missing in terms of the regulation, in terms of the ethics of it. And we decided to start the research on the ethical use of AI. Unfortunately, we submitted it for the Africanist conference, but we couldn't. And what fascinated me the most is that this young man got a UNDP job, even before completing his program as we speak. He's currently in Jordan as an AI specialist. So this also shows that it's not just about coming to learn all, it also creates a wealth of opportunities for young people. On this note, I want to say a very big thank you, sir, for coming up with this bold initiative, and myself and Professor Lee. We both work within the environment capable system. This university, and then all the challenges put on the table for us. So we are ready to work with her, as well as all other ops on campus that are working in AI, just like the environment system. We need to actually bring all them. Thank you very much. Not to do a campus. Everything where AI is done in Nigeria, and bringing together all the capacity both within and outside Nigeria. That's the whole essence of the AI system and the thing. You have access to the infrastructure, you have access to data. We will be discussing with HOD on several data opportunities that we have in our. So I will give one last person. Not that your reflection of thought are not important, but you have this electronic response, which can put your information, and I need to apologize. I have to be in the airport 1 hour, but I go quickly to Peter.
I'm all up for the first of all, I want to thank the chief facilitator, students working for organization. This wonderful workshop at work. What we are going to add is, yes, in the training, still we're getting this function. But I want to say what I'm taking away from here is actually the what talked about by panelists here today, and that's in terms of the ethics and regulations. The regulation of people, because I have the opportunity sometimes to work with NCC. And we're looking at regulation of AI, so on, things were not really done.
But what was talked about yesterday was actually valuable for me. And what I want to say here, yesterday they were saying, and I think the professor from America, I must look at in all its ramifications. Our students must not be discouraged from using AI. The regulation we are going to look at now in terms of AI, it's national, and we are also looking at it within a student ecosystem, the academic ecosystem. When we look at it from the academic ecosystem, we should encourage our students to look at AI, responsive AI in terms of regulation and things for. Now, we're talking about responsive AI now. To get to a level whereby we should, whatever the students are presenting now, confidence enough to say, okay, this assignment given to you, I use AI. And then the level we're looking at now is to what extent did you use AI? We want to see your contribution, right, to the body of knowledge. So you're not depending solely on AI, but we want to take AI positively. So we're going to encourage our students to use AI responsibly. And when you're using AI responsibly, you now have to be on top of it. We must let them know from what we have learned here today and yesterday and day before yesterday. Now, we're talking about the AI. That's it. People are feeding in the data. So whatever it be, you must know that it's AI is NLP. In fact, there's no thing you today and yesterday we talked about that. It's natural language processing. If you have prompted ChatGPT enough, ChatGPT at one time was one and valuable. When it is valuable, it implies that I'm likely to do what? To make mistake. And it's telling me also that whatever you are getting from me, it is not what? It is not 100%. So what we're saying, what I want to summarize this way, the reflection of the AI we should be looking forward towards now is our students should be in the know that whatever they're getting from AI is not 100%. So you should look beyond that. Your own research, the scholarly nature inside of it what to play. So when you're getting anything from AI, ChatGPT, you're also what? Going outside to do what? So on that note, I want to thank the organizer once again, and God bless you all. Thank you so much.
We appreciate everyone, and I think let's the DG CEO will declare this workshop closed officially.
I got my together.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
That's why
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome, sir.
Thank you
Thank you very much. Yes, 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 yes. It's always good. For every time you student in. There are, you can take multiple choice, you can take different.
There is no
Different things. Exactly. Okay, face. Maybe beautiful face. Oh, I didn't announce about certificate too. So let's please, please, certificate will be sent to your email. You will have electronic certificate. Anyone that wants a paper certificate, please leave your mailing address. If you want a paper certificate, leave your mailing address or I mean, if you want, we can mail them. You can mail them. It's a commitment that we make. It will be prepared over there. And I will mail it. Yes. The mailing address. Oh, no, no, if I did, that's what I'm saying. And if you don't know, if I did, the mailing address, but it's a yeah. The second thing on my favorite space. Oh, my name is we don't. Oh, from people they went by. The white house, yeah. That was the data science.
So when I saw this one, I said no, and I was people wants to make that work. Well, once they have it.
It's so nice.
I wrote because you made it so
Yes.
and you understood everybody the stakeholder. And it took me some people say that they and the cybersecurity guy has made it doing that AI. You know what we are the cybersecurity expert because you're somebody at your mind.
Yeah. But that was why the course size want to analyze every post. That's why we're factoring the count data. You know, when I saw that, I had to now go and actually the Python stuff I don't think I didn't plan for it in pattern. And when I saw that, I knew that's an answer.
I'm going to be able to so
Yes, anybody that wants, if you are telling the university and wants to have certificates, then you have to submit mailing address so that we can mail it to you. Yeah, but the electronics will still reach you. If you now want for attending the event, you want we could take that electronic down.
I think I'm quite interested. And then we are not the text before I'm so we made it so interesting. And I don't know, maybe I'll think about that. I think I will have to yeah. So I think I want area. Then I'm going to get another in this area. I can walk and talk about this. Yes, I'll be.
Yeah, what we email. Let's be empowering the women.
Let me
Yes,
where's Dr. Okay. Dr. Anybody? Sorry, sorry.
I think yeah, for some of us more offensive. It's more offensive than after. And then so it's now. And anybody else, you question with us. Yes. But but like those things, then it tends, you don't have enough document, and sometimes there's one thing that
So between now and midday in Islam,
we don't have it.
it's actually down. And so I said, my own attention is what exists and
So this is two of us, no, it's not with NCC. Together, 2 3 years. Yes.
And as a last time, so NCC was so sad out with a lot of people. He was so sad. But the present regime failed. Then President how much the convergence of two regulatory body, LCC and National Communication Commission and the Nigerian Ground Broadcasting Commission. So the convergence now, they have no like what is the chance of
By the time they are taking a decision, maybe, for example, they are taking a decision over you. By that time, there's no change.
there's say no in the past year. Like this time, you might not have opportunity to apply.
We are the market.
Okay, actually, so but now we want to